Tommy Egan was never meant to fit in. He came to Chicago like a ghost in daylight, ruthless, hungry, and unstoppable. Every move he made shook the streets. Every alliance he built carried blood on its hands. But now, the same crew that once rode for him is turning their backs. The same streets that crowned him king are whispering his downfall. The question isn't if CBI turns on Tommy, it's why. And when the truth comes out, it'll show that loyalty in Chicago doesn't fade. It explodes. Tommy Egan didn't come to Chicago looking for peace. He came chasing power. After losing everything back in New York, he saw the Windy City as a blank page, a place to rewrite his name, his legacy, his rule. The city was already divided between gangs, dealers, and hustlers, but Tommy didn't care who owned what. He didn't ask for permission. He took what he wanted, and that's exactly what drew the attention of CBI, the Chicago Brothers Incorporated. CBI wasn't just another crew. They were family, built by blood, by struggle, and by survival. Diamond Sampson, the leader, had spent years behind bars dreaming of a better version of the game. His brother Jenard held the streets while he was gone, but when Diamond came out, he found a new world. A city filled with new enemies, new money, and one unpredictable outsider, Tommy Egan. From their first meeting, it was clear there was something dangerous about Tommy. He wasn't afraid. Not of the cops, not of rivals, and definitely not of rules. That kind of fearlessness impressed Diamond. He saw potential, someone who could push CBI higher than ever before. At first, it worked. Tommy brought fire into the organization. He understood the business side, the distribution, the expansion. While Diamond brought stability and structure, Tommy brought chaos, the kind that makes money fast and enemies faster. Together, they turned CBI from a local gang into a growing empire. For a short moment, it looked like Chicago had finally found its power balance. Tommy had respect. Diamond had peace. Jenard had security. But underneath all of it, something ugly was brewing: pride. And in this world, pride kills faster than bullets. Tommy's rise inside CBI didn't sit right with everyone. To some, he was an outsider stealing their shine. To others, he was a white boy trying to run a black crew. Even though Tommy earned his stripes through action, every move he made reminded people that he wasn't one of them. And no matter how many bodies dropped or how much money flowed, that truth stayed in the shadows, waiting to strike. Tommy didn't see it at first. He thought respect was enough to build loyalty. But in Chicago, loyalty has a price, and CBI was slowly counting the cost. Diamond tried to balance things. He liked Tommy, trusted his instincts, and respected his hustle. But he also knew that Tommy's kind of chaos doesn't last forever. Every empire that rises too fast burns twice as bright before it dies. And when Tommy's fire started touching CBI's family, Diamond's patience began to fade. The streets could smell it. A storm was coming, and when it hit, it wouldn't just test Tommy's strength. It would destroy everything he built. Because in Power Book 4, power isn't about who controls the city. It's about who survives it. And as Tommy's shadow grew longer, CBI started to wonder if standing next to him meant standing in the line of fire. Power always comes with a price. And Tommy Egan has been paying that price his whole life. Every time he builds something, someone tries to take it. Every time he trusts someone, they turn. But in Chicago, it's different. Here, loyalty doesn't come from friendship, it comes from fear, respect, and who can move the most weight without flinching. For a while, Tommy thought he had that balance. He thought he and Diamond were brothers in arms, united by a common goal. But loyalty built on survival is never solid. It cracks the moment power starts shifting. Diamond is a man who has seen what greed can do. After spending years locked away, he wanted to rebuild CBI with structure and discipline, something clean enough to last. But Tommy doesn't believe in slow growth or clean business. To him, every second is a chance to take more, to dominate, to make sure no one ever has the chance to play him again. That difference, Diamond's patience versus Tommy's hunger, became the spark that started the quiet war inside CBI. At first, it was small things. Tommy would make moves without telling anyone. New connects, new corners, new deals. The kind of plays that made big money but even bigger noise. Diamond would find out later, furious but too focused on keeping peace to say much. But the streets were talking. Soldiers began whispering that Tommy was the one really running things, not Diamond. And that hit Diamond where it hurt most, his pride and his control. Because when people start looking at you like you're not the boss anymore, it's only a matter of time before you're not. Tommy never meant to steal CBI. In his mind, he was building something greater. But ambition has no off switch, and Tommy's ambition burned hotter than anyone's. Every deal he made brought new enemies. Every kill he ordered left blood that couldn't be washed off. To Tommy, that was just part of the game. But to Diamond, it was chaos. He started seeing Tommy not as a partner, but as a problem, one that could get him, his brother, and their whole organization buried. Jenard saw that crack forming and smiled. He's always been the kind of man who feeds off division. The more Diamond and Tommy fought, the more power he regained in the shadows. He started reminding the soldiers that Tommy wasn't family, that he didn't bleed like them, that he didn't care who died as long as he got paid. And little by little, CBI began to split in two, half loyal to Diamond, half lured by Tommy's money and momentum. That's how betrayal starts in the streets. Not with gunfire, but with whispers. Tommy, meanwhile, stayed blind to it all. He thought loyalty meant action. If he handled business, protected the crew, and brought in cash, then the respect would last. But that's not how CBI works. Respect here isn't just earned, it has to be maintained. Every day. Every deal. Every drop of blood. The moment people start questioning your motives, you're already losing them. And when Tommy started taking bigger risks, hitting rival crews, making new enemies without backup, CBI started realizing that Tommy wasn't fighting for them anymore. He was fighting for himself. The truth is, Tommy and Diamond were never meant to last as partners. They came from two different worlds. One believed in loyalty above all. The other believed loyalty could be bought. One played for the long game. The other lived like tomorrow didn't exist. And when those two philosophies collide, someone always gets crushed. The tension between them grew like a ticking bomb. Every conversation turned colder, every deal tighter, every silence heavier. The brotherhood they once shared became a business transaction, and Tommy doesn't do business with emotions. That's when CBI started realizing something Diamond had been afraid to admit. Tommy Egan doesn't belong to anyone. He doesn't follow orders. He doesn't kneel. And if you're not with him, you're in his way. What makes this story tragic isn't just that Tommy and CBI are falling apart, it's that they both want the same thing: control, respect, freedom from the rules that keep them chained. But the streets don't let two kings share the same throne. One has to fall for the other to rise. And as the walls start closing in, the question becomes, when loyalty turns to fear, and fear turns to betrayal, how long before the streets decide who's really in charge? Because in Chicago, loyalty isn't a promise, it's a countdown. And for Tommy Egan and CBI, that countdown has already started ticking. Every betrayal has a breaking point. And for CBI, that point came when Tommy stopped being an asset and started being a threat. It didn't happen overnight. It started slow, like a small crack in a wall that no one notices until the whole thing collapses. Tommy had been winning battles, expanding territory, and bringing in record money. But every victory came with a body count. Every success came with chaos. And every decision he made without CBI's say-so chipped away at the one thing that kept their world standing: trust. At first, Diamond tried to play it cool. He told himself Tommy was just being Tommy, reckless, bold, always moving. But deep down, Diamond knew things were changing. Tommy had stopped asking. He wasn't just running plays for CBI anymore. He was building his own empire within their empire. New suppliers, secret drop spots, soldiers answering to him directly. Tommy was no longer standing beside Diamond. He was standing above him. And in a city built on ego, no man survives long when his power starts to make others feel small. The streets felt the shift before CBI did. Rival crews started whispering that Tommy was the real boss now. Even the feds began noticing his name popping up in places that had nothing to do with CBI. And every time Diamond tried to rein him in, Tommy pushed harder, reminding everyone that he made CBI stronger, not weaker. But that's the thing about power, it doesn't matter who builds it. People only remember who takes credit for it. The real breaking point came when one of Tommy's independent deals went bad. A connect got hit, money went missing, and Bodie's dropped CBI soldiers. Innocent people, the kind of mess that brings the law down fast. Diamond had to clean it up while Tommy vanished, hunting down the people responsible. To him, it was personal revenge, not business. But to Diamond, it was a disaster. The cops were sniffing around, corners went cold, and word on the street was that CBI had lost control. That's when Diamond finally said the words he'd been holding back: Tommy's become a liability. From that moment, The shift was irreversible. The same people who once swore loyalty to Tommy began to question him. The money was good, but the danger was worse. Families were scared, soldiers were dying, and Diamond's patience was gone. Jenard saw the opportunity and moved in like a vulture. He started reminding everyone of what CBI used to be before Tommy showed up: organized, united, respected. He painted Tommy as the outsider who brought war to their doorstep, and slowly, his words started to stick. The beauty of betrayal is that it never comes from enemies. It comes from those who once stood beside you. And for Tommy, that betrayal was growing inside CBI, like poison in a cup. People who once followed his orders began second-guessing him. His calls went unanswered. Meetings got delayed. Diamond stopped sharing intel. Even DMAC, Tommy's own blood, began to feel the tension. Everyone could sense it. CBI wasn't Tommy's crew anymore. It was a trap waiting to spring. But Tommy, being Tommy, he didn't back down. When he felt the shift, he doubled down instead. More deals, more moves, more risks. He thought if he made himself indispensable, they couldn't turn on him. What he didn't realize was that every power play he made only proved their point. Tommy couldn't be controlled. And when a man can't be controlled, he becomes dangerous. The final straw came when a shipment, one meant for CBI's biggest operation, went missing. No one knew who hid it. But all the signs pointed to Tommy. Rumors spread that he'd flipped it for his own profit. That he was cutting CBI out completely. Whether true or not, didn't matter. In the streets, perception is reality. And that perception turned CBI against him faster than any bullet could. Diamond called for a meeting, calm, quiet, almost polite. But behind his eyes was a decision already made. Tommy walked in thinking they'd talk business. Instead, he found silence, stares, and guns that didn't point at the door. It wasn't an ambush, not yet. But it was a warning, one Tommy didn't take seriously enough. That's when he realized something chilling. The same loyalty that had built his empire was gone. The same men who once swore to ride for him now watched him like prey. And the worst part, he understood them. Because Tommy's entire life has been built on the same rule: you turn before you get turned on. But now, that rule was turned against him. CBI wasn't just breaking ties. They were preparing for war. Quiet meetings in backrooms, coded messages on burners, side deals with old enemies. The betrayal wasn't coming. It was already here. Tommy could feel it in the air. The same way a killer feels a setup before the first bullet flies. He knew the streets were shifting, but instead of running, he did what Tommy Egan always does. He got ready. Because in his mind, loyalty may die, but revenge never does. When the dust finally settles, there's only one name left echoing through Chicago's alleys: Tommy Egan. The man who came from nothing, who burned every bridge he ever crossed, now stands alone in a city that once feared him. But fear fades fast in the streets. Respect fades even faster. What never fades is revenge. And for CBI, revenge is no longer just business. It's personal. Tommy has always been a soldier built for chaos. Pain doesn't slow him. Betrayal doesn't break him, it sharpens him. But even a man like Tommy knows that when an entire organization turns on you, survival isn't about power anymore. It's about instincts. Every move he makes now has to be silent, calculated, and cruel. Because CBI isn't coming for a conversation, they're coming for closure. After the fallout, Tommy disappears for a while. The streets start talking. Some say he ran. Others say he's planning something big. Diamond doesn't believe in rumors, but he knows one truth: Tommy doesn't run. That's what makes him dangerous. Diamond starts to see that the man he once trusted, the man who helped him rebuild CBI, is now the same man capable of tearing it down. Every corner, every soldier, every shipment becomes a question mark. Is Tommy behind it? Is he watching? Is he waiting? Meanwhile, Jenard thrives in the chaos. He feeds on the fear that Tommy left behind. To him, this is redemption, the chance to take back everything he thinks Tommy stole. He rallies what's left of CBI, promising strength, unity, and a return to the real Chicago. But his version of leadership is built on hate, not honor. And hate has a way of eating its own. While Jenard talks about cleaning up the streets, he's secretly cutting deals with people who'd love to see both Tommy and CBI destroyed. Tommy, on the other hand, begins moving like a ghost. He doesn't attack head on. He studies. He listens. He waits. Every name that turned on him gets written down. Every betrayal becomes a plan. He knows that in Chicago, loyalty may not exist, but fear still does, and fear is his favorite weapon. Slowly, he starts picking at CBI's foundation. Small hits at first. A stash gone missing. A soldier ambushed. A shipment rerouted. Nothing too loud, but enough to make everyone paranoid. That's how Tommy fights. Not with noise, but with silence that makes everyone question who's next. Diamond tries to hold the organization together, but cracks are showing everywhere. His soldiers are divided. Some still respect Tommy, others want him dead. The streets are bleeding again, and the cops are watching closer than ever. For a man who wanted peace, Diamond finds himself in the middle of another war, but this time, it's a war he can't control. Because when Tommy Egan decides to burn something down, he doesn't stop until there's nothing left but ashes. The city starts to change around them. Corners once claimed by CBI now sit empty. Old enemies resurface, sensing weakness. The game that once belonged to Diamond and Tommy now belongs to no one. Chicago becomes a battlefield, and Tommy moves through it like a ghost story. Everyone knows his name, but no one sees him coming. But behind Tommy's rage, there's something deeper, pain. He trusted these men. He bled for them. He believed for a moment that he'd finally found something close to family again. And now, they've turned on him. For Tommy, that betrayal cuts deeper than any bullet ever could. It's not just about survival anymore. It's about making sure every person who doubted him remembers exactly who he is. Because Tommy doesn't forgive, he erases. D-Mac, caught in the middle, becomes the only thread of emotion left in Tommy's world. He wants to pull his uncle back before it's too late, but Tommy's too far gone. The lines between right and wrong, friend and foe, have blurred into nothing. To Tommy, the world has become simple again. You're either with him, or you're gone. By the time Diamond realizes what's coming, it's already too late. CBI's enemies aren't the cops or rival crews anymore. It's Tommy himself. One man against an entire organization he helped build. And the worst part, he knows them better than they know themselves. Their roots, their weaknesses, their habits. Tommy taught them everything they know. Now he's going to use it against them. The final showdown won't be about territory or money. It'll be about pride, about betrayal, about the cost of crossing a man who has nothing left to lose. Because when Tommy Egan decides to fight, he doesn't fight for survival, he fights to remind the world that he's still standing. In the end, whether Tommy wins or dies doesn't matter. What matters is the message he leaves behind. That in a city built on loyalty and power, both are just illusions. The only real truth is this. Everyone wants to rule Chicago, but no one ever truly owns it. Not Diamond, not Jenard, not CBI, because Chicago doesn't belong to anyone. It belongs to the streets. And as the lights fade, one thing becomes clear. Tommy Egan might lose the war, but he'll make sure everyone who betrayed him bleeds before it's over. The storm he brought to Chicago isn't done yet. It's just getting started.